Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Emily and today I'm going to go through my top books for over 2022. I think it was 80 books over 2022, which is a lot of books. Honestly, I still can't believe I read that many, but it is what it is. And every month I kept track of as to which book was my favorite book for that month. And this is just a recap video of all the books that I picked at the best book of the month, which they are all up here. And let's see if I remember the plots of them, especially like the beginning ones, because it's been a while since I've read them. Yeah, so how I rate my books is I use the system CAWPILE and I rate them out of 10 that way, out of each section, and then each category, and then I divide it up into half, and then that gives you the average score rating, which is how I get my ratings for all my books. So some ways I like it and other ways I don't, but I do like it in a sense that it just gives me a way to kind of solidify a score or like a ranking when I'm not 100% sure on the ranking myself. So let's start this. In January, my top book was Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. This follows Dani. She is a professor at her university and she ends up in this situationship or like fake dating scenario with the security guard on campus after a famous a viral video took off where he rescued her from a building when I think it was a fake alarm, but everyone thought it was real, and they decided to go on this fake dating thing because it just was better for everyone. And sparks flew and it was a really good romance. I really recommend at least the Brown Sisters trilogy from Talia Hibbert because they're all smash hits. As you can tell, the last book is also on my list. It's not necessary that all these books are like 5 stars. A lot of them are 4-star books, but there are a lot of 5-star in there as well. And not all 5 stars made it to the list because there's some months where I read like 2 5-star books. Anyway, enough clarification. In February, my favorite book was The Mark of Athena, which is the 3rd book in the Heroes of Olympus series by Riordan. This follows the events after the Percy Jackson series, and pretty much we are on this journey trying to find... What are we finding? Oh, they're missing Zeus's wife. I can't remember her name. Juno, I think, is Roman, and it's the clash between pretty much Roman and Greek gods and the interpretation of each one and which one gives them power. And pretty much the Mark of Athena is pretty much about Annabeth, and pretty much the Roman kids not really liking her because Athena doesn't really exist in Roman mythology. But it was I love the series. I can't wait to get into the Trials of Apollo, especially after the last book in the series. It would be very, very interesting to read, and I'm kind of also curious as to what's going to happen to Percy and the crew. Next book we have on the list is The Brashares Elevator, I think I pronounced that right, by Lemony Snicket. This is the 6th book in the Unfortunate Events series, and I did read these all throughout 2022, and I kind of regret it in one way, but at the same time I'm glad I read it. I think when I read this was a bad month for my reading because I don't know how this would have gotten on the list of being on the top if I didn't read a few duds that month. I think it was higher up on my series of Unfortunate Events rank and review. I'm not 100% sure, but this ended up on the list for some weird reason. It was, yeah, so the story follows the Baudelaire children, Violet, Sunny, and Klaus Baudelaire, after their parents perish in a terrible, terrible fire. Yeah, this is the 6th book in, so I'm not going to give much detail into the 6th book. And they're also being chased by a cattle. That was the other part of the story that I should probably mention. Next book is Heartstopper Volume 2 by Oseman. So this follows Nick and Charlie and their whirlwind romance, high school sweetheart romance between 2 boys, and it's beautiful. It's a good book. I love this so much, and I rewatched the series the other day because I was like trying to introduce my husband's sister to some new type of media, and she was like, oh my god, I actually don't mind this. I thought I wasn't gonna like it, but I liked it. And I was like, yeah, well, if you want to know what happens next, the comics. And she was like, I don't want to read like novels. And I'm like, it's literally pictures. And she's like, okay, I might have to check it out. I'm like, He will. So I'm converting people to the Heartstopper fandom, even if it's intentional or not. Who knows? But I love the series. I just love the vibes, and I can't wait to see what volume 5 has in store for us, because and also in I think April I read volume 2, 3 and 4, so volume 2 was definitely the top rated. I think it's just because like the first one it was more like they just meet, and then like the second one that's like more of the romance, more of the guts to it, and same with the third one. Fourth one was a little drawn out with some things, but I still really appreciated what they were doing with it. So that's Heartstopper, and I just can't wait. I can't believe that volume 5 is going to be the last volume, but I understand that it can't just go on forever, and Nick and Charlie will always live in our hearts. Next is Big Little Lies by Liane Morarity. So I was actually very surprised by this book, because I went into this thinking that it was just going to be some adult book that I'm just not going to like, and I liked it. I liked this book. It was so good. For me, when someone says like a cozy mystery, this would be the book I would think of when it comes to cozy mystery. Because for me, I also was listening to the audiobook for this, and it's like you had the Aussie accent of the characters, you had the Aussie lingo, you had like the Aussie scenery of Sydney, it felt so comforting for me that it just felt at home, and I felt so at ease reading this book, and it just like I just wanted more and more and more. I have not watched the TV show. I don't know if I want to, because I feel like it will ruin the vibe that it was meant to be Aussie, because it's not Aussie, and that's one thing that I can't get past when thinking about the TV show. So yeah, this pretty much just follows 3 mothers who have just started their kids in kindergarten at a high-end public school. It's a public school in a good suburb of Sydney, and pretty much it's just the 3 of them. You know, they all have their own story, they all like kind of link up to each other, and they, you know, what they find together and with each other, like it's a beautiful kind of story that just, you know, just winds up all together and is just nicely told. And I can't wait to read more of Liane Morarity to see if she will be one of my next favorite authors, and that I have to keep an eye on. And also, this is also my top book for 2022. This is my favorite book. I have not been able to stop thinking about it since I've read it, and I am in love, and I will, if anyone wants a mystery, or it's not really a thriller, but if you want a mystery, get on this. This is so good. Next book is The Second Summer of the Sisterhood by Brashares. And I really remember this one. Why did I think this was a good book? I don't know. I think it was just the girls were starting to get a bit more maturity, and it's not just about boys, because like, I think in the first one it just felt very much about the boys and everything, and I think Tibby had a nice story with hers because she's dealing with the loss of the first book and everything. Bridget's trying to find comfort in her family, trying to figure out what's going on with her family. Carmen, yeah, she's going through some changes as well. And Lena, I really don't like Lena in these stories. I don't know, she just seems very whiny a lot of the time. I've read the first 3. I've still got 2 more to go. Yeah, Lena is not my favorite character, because it just seems that the story goes between her and Costco. I can't remember the guy that she was in love with, but yeah, and he's an ass, and yeah, and also just I didn't really like it. I didn't like Lena, but the other 3 had redeeming qualities to their storylines, so I think that's why I liked it. I'm not 100% sure on that one myself. I think it's just probably a bad reading month, and I had to put this one at the top because it was just the book that was the highest on my CAWPILE rating. Next is the sixth book in the Skullduggery Pleasant series, Deathbringer by Derek Landy. Loved it, love it. This was the book I rated 5 stars. Like, out of the whole series I've read so far. The rest I've only rated 4 stars, but for some reason this one just kept bringing me back in for more. It was just so good. Follows Skullduggery Pleasant, who is a skeleton, and Valkyrie Kane, who in this book is 16, but when they meet they're like she's like 12, and pretty much they go on this like magical adventure together with like detective, like whodunit kind of scenarios in every book, but you add more character development within each book, and that's really nice, getting to know different characters. You're not just them, like you got Ghastly Bespoke, you've got Tanaflo, Yeah, and even like the bad guys like Billy Ray Sangreen, Scapegrace, yeah, there's a lot of different people, and it's just it's so good, and getting to know a lot more about Valkyrie's power as well is very fascinating. Next is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I just realized that I read this book in August, and that probably was not a good month for me to read this book. But I think it also helped in some way of me healing. I had lost my pop in August, and so why I decided to read this book, I have no clue. But I think it helped a little bit with the healing. But at the same time, but I still enjoyed the book. I think definitely this is a book that you should read with a clear head, and you're not dealing with anything traumatic or triggering, because it can trigger a lot of emotions, and I think I felt that a little bit every now and again getting into this book. Pretty much it follows Nora, who is pretty much feeling like that she's made every single worst decision in her life, and so she tries to die, and then she gets introduced into the Midnight Library, where she pretty much tries out every single scenario of her life where she did something else instead of what she actually did in her life, and if she was happy, she could stay in that life. I feel like I said too much about that book, but that's okay. That's pretty much the basic of it. So if it's something that you think you can handle, I would encourage you to read it. It's still a good book, but if you don't think you'd be able to handle something like that, especially if you are dealing with those types of thoughts and not coping very well, I would highly recommend not reading this book. Definitely do not read this book, but it is very beautiful writing by Matt Haig. In September, I put this as my best read, which is Spy X Family. I have not watched the anime for it yet, but the manga was pretty good. I'll give it that. The manga was pretty good. I've only read the first volume. I don't know what you call these. Sorry, I'm very new to reading manga. I don't really know the lingo all too well, but I'm pretty sure this is a chapter. Maybe not. Yeah, it was good. I did enjoy it. I should probably try and read more of the volumes that we have, but I just haven't for some weird reason. I think it's just more I haven't had time, because I can just sit down and read these in a day, and I just haven't had the time to do that. So I should probably do that. I'm looking forward to reading more of Spy X Family. So the premise of this is pretty much you have a spy, and he needs to create a family, and pretty much his two people that he picks for his family have very dark backstories that he is not aware of, and they make just such a sweet, wholesome family. Spy on each other. It's very cute. So that's the premise. Next month, it was This Is Not the Jess Show by Anna Carey. This was really good. I was surprised by this. I didn't think I would like it, because I don't usually like thrillers and mysteries all too much, and I felt like, I know this book gets a lot of, like, when people explain it, they say, oh, it's like the Truman Show, and sometimes I feel like that's a spoiler in itself, and I feel like, and it's just like, I just spoiled it for you again. But if I ever recommend this book, I'm going to try not to reference this as the Truman Show, because it is a spoiler, because if you read on through it, I think that was meant to be the plot twist, and it just kind of lacked in that sense, because you knew it was coming, because everyone has described this book as the Truman Show, so you knew that it was coming. But at the same time, it's like, if that wasn't a part of the marketing around this book, it would just been such an awesome flip on the head. I don't know if I want to read the second book in this, because I read the synopsis of it, and it didn't seem like it was necessary, as well as this kind of ended nicely. I didn't think it left too much out in the open, in all honesty. But it's a good show. It follows a girl named Jess. She's 16, and pretty much she kind of has the worst luck when it comes to life, because at the end of every single year something bad happens to her. Also at the same time, life's normal. She's got a friend, but she hasn't really left her town, and she lives in the 90s. She doesn't think there would be, everything's normal to her, and then until she discovers the secret that everyone was hiding from her. It's a good story. I definitely would recommend. Next November, we have Act Your Age Even Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This follows Eve Brown, who is trying to act her age. She's trying to find a job. She's trying to start her life anew after many failed jobs and many failed attempts at trying to work. And she ends up meeting Jacob, who is an inn owner, and he, they don't get along. It's kind of like enemies to lovers with a little bit of tension between them, and the build-up's so good, and it's just like, yes. And one thing I do love about Talia Hibbert's books is that they actually come with trigger warnings at the beginning of every single book. So if there's a trigger, you can actually read the triggers beforehand before you actually start reading it, so you know whether or not that's going to be something you can read. So love that, and definitely read the Brown Sisters. This is like my one true romance. Just read these, please. And last but not least, we have Dear Dolly on Love, Life and Friendship by Dolly Alderton. This is the only non-fiction entry on this lineup. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. It was just nice to just read just different people's perspectives on life and reading about issues that other people are going through, because it puts your own issues sometimes into perspective. It's like, oh well, these people are dealing with this, but like I'm dealing with this. Like, is my issue as big as theirs? Or kind of like that. But it's not like I'm not putting myself down being like, well, they got more bigger issues, like my issues are not that big. No, I'm not like saying that, but like I'm saying that it put my own issues into perspective when reading about someone else's. And yeah, that's my list of books that I read in 2022 that were my top book in each and every month. And I went down the list, and I know I did not mention the months, but so yeah, pretty much at the start January and then all the way down to December. Yeah, I'm actually surprised I remembered a lot of the plots for these stories, and other than probably like 1 or 2 of them, it just took me a mind to get my mind going, yes, that's exactly what happened. Next week I think I'm talking about statistics. If not, I'll pop down below what I'm actually going to be talking about. And if you like this video, give it a like, comment down below what are some of your favorite books that you read during 2022. I'd love to hear them, seeing if I need to add them to my 2023 TBR. Subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.